let's get into the news. This is interesting. It just you just printed it this morning.
Yes.
Prosecutors seek to question Trump's lawyer, Corcoran.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the idea is to use the crime fraud exception, obviously, but they're also using the search warrant affidavit to get the search at Mar-a-Lago for the judge to allow this to happen. Your thoughts on all of this? This seems like
full disclosure, I used to work with Evan Corcoran. He and I had a murder case in common decades ago at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to see the way he has chosen to go professionally, because anytime you are representing a defendant and you get hauled before the grand jury to testify about the crimes your client may have committed, that's not a good thing. And let me tell you, Jody, rarely do prosecutors drag defense attorneys who are representing the target of the grand jury investigation in to testify. But boy, Jack Smith, I am pleased to see, is going 100 miles an hour, scorched earth, in the direction of accountability. You know, Evan Corcoran has gotten himself in a jam because it looks like he was being used by Donald Trump in furtherance of Trump's documents crimes. Now, we don't know if he was being used knowingly or unknowingly, but the bottom line is, as a lawyer, you cannot participate or facilitate the crimes of your client. If you do, your attorney-client privilege evaporates and you can be forced to testify about and incriminate your own client.
I like that part.
It's a little tickle up my leg. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like to AG, who we listened to on her show, Jack, that they're going after obstruction in this case.
They are, and that's like, it's kind of like shooting fish in the barrel,
right?
Because if you have property that belongs to the government, and Donald Trump did, he had documents. Frankly, it doesn't matter if they were classified or not. They didn't belong to him.
Right.
The grand jury issued a subpoena. That's a lawful order from a court saying give them back. And Donald Trump didn't, and he hid them, and we found them. The FBI found them pursuant to a search warrant in his desk drawers in his office. And now recent reporting is that he had even more documents after the FBI search. That's obstructing justice. That's a pretty easy charge to prove. And I think that will be one of the marquee charges in a federal indictment of Donald Trump.
Well, with the reporting of the FBI not wanting to execute a search warrant and the DOJ saying, well, wait a minute, we need to do that, I think getting the subpoena ahead of time, I think, makes their case stronger. And look, we were being as nice as possible to this guy, but he lied to us after the subpoena. He gave some stuff over, but we realized that there was other stuff. So even though the FBI, at least some people in the FBI, seem to be very supportive of Donald Trump, their insistence on being nice to him has bolstered, in my opinion, the DOJ's case.
And that's brilliant, right? If the FBI hesitated when they should have acted, all they ended up doing was strengthening the future criminal case against Donald Trump. That's a great point. And, you know, yes, I'm troubled if the FBI is being governed by politics. But listen, the FBI is made up of human beings, and they're going to have their own political views and beliefs and ideologies. But for gosh sakes, you can't let that creep into your work. I will tell you, as a federal law enforcement officer, albeit a prosecutor, not an FBI agent, for decades, you know, it was the cardinal sin to ever think about politics when you were investigating a case and trying to decide how to proceed, whether to indict or not. So this is disappointing. I don't have a lot of confidence in Chris Wray as the FBI director. And, you know, now we see some of the deficiencies in FBI leadership coming home to roost.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Now, I just, excuse me, in the case against the Proud Boys, apparently the Justice Department leaked classified information to the defense. Whoops.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
During testimony, prosecutors shared internal FBI messages sent and received by Agent Nicole Miller. They were supposed to be scrubbed with any classified information, but apparently it was accessible in hidden sections of the Excel spreadsheet. So they learned of this snafu while the defense was grilling her in front of jurors. So what do you, is this, or is it a concern? It depends on the information, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I'm going to say I've been there, I've done that, where, you are turning over mountains and mountains of evidence in discovery.
Right.
I always did it in paper because I am incompetent and computers make me nervous, but I know that's not the day and age we live in now. So when they're turning over things that they call terabytes of information, terabytes, it makes my megahertz, and I don't know what that is.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
There's a joke in there somewhere that I'm sure I've stole from somebody. But listen, these people who are involved in this prosecution are my former colleagues. Some of them were homicide prosecutors. I feel their pain because you try to turn over everything you think you have to turn over. And then there are embedded lines in an Excel spreadsheet that should have been redacted that weren't. That's a nightmare, particularly when it involves classified information. So listen, the judge took a pause in the trial for a couple of days. They're going to address this issue both practically to make sure there are no, national security implications of this stuff being turned over to defense attorneys. And I'm not saying the defense attorneys are intending to misuse it, but it's in their hands now. And legally, what are the consequences with respect to this prosecution misstep? But you know what? They're going to move through this, I predict. They're going to get back on track. The prosecutors have just about finished presenting their case in chief. And then the interesting piece is the defense attorneys will present their case. And as we know, one of the defendants is trying to subpoena Donald Trump to testify in their defense. I wrote a piece about this for MSNBC Daily. I do not believe that subpoena will be successful. And if it is Donald Trump, I can almost promise you we'll plead the fifth. He will not testify.
Oh, of course not. No, he wouldn't.